Happy October! It's October 1st. It's officially spooky season. I'm super excited because it's my season and everybody just seems to appreciate horror a little bit more now that it's spooky season. So, seeing as it's October 1st and I get my fall attire, let's begin with what I read in September. First, some disclaimers. The lighting is not that good. It's fall now. I need to get lights behind me or in front of me, something. We'll work on it. Not an issue right now. We're just doing this for fun. So everybody can calm down. I know. But we're gonna start off our little lovely review of all the books I read in September. I have my Goodreads account right here so I can keep track of my stars and everything like that. And we're going to start off with Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ning. I believe is how you pronounce her last name. I'm not too sure. And I know that that's not horror. It's not really so much a thriller either. It's more like suspense, family drama, maybe a mystery kind of. And I got it from the library. I only gave this 2 stars because controversial opinion, I loved the show when they made it and I always wanted to read it to see if it kind of meshed well, and I did not like the book. I might not have liked it because it wasn't really my go-to scenario. It's family that moves into a rental house. They're more stricken with money issues and poverty, and it's about this mother and her daughter, and the daughter gets obsessed with the rich family that's their landlords, and she starts to become them. One member of the daughters in the wealthier family starts identifying more with the mom, who's an artist, and they all just kind of blend in. Their family secrets start coming out on both ends, and it's just, it's a ride, but it wasn't my favorite ride that I've ever been on. I quite enjoyed the show more. So I wouldn't say, the writing was good. I enjoyed the way she wrote. I might read something else she writes. I'm just not too sure. I wanted to try it, see how it went. I'm glad I read it. The show and it did have a lot of similarities. I just felt like the book was more of a slow burn than the show. So I think for that one, I might just stick with the show itself. Not to say it wasn't fun, but it just didn't do it for me. So we'll move on to The Inmate by Frida McFadden. I also got this one from the library because I discovered her on my Spotify as I was just trying to listen to a random audiobook, and I ended up picking one of her stories before, which was The Teacher, I believe, and it was really good and I really liked it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to continue to read from her. I do enjoy thrillers, and she was very good at not having a predictable ending for me, which is something that thrillers often lack. Sometimes you start them and you're like, oh, I know what's about to happen here. But with her, the twists and turns kept coming, and they were always surprising. I was like, wait, oh, what's happened here? So I went for The Inmate this time, and I loved it. I gave it 3 stars just because it wasn't, I don't think about it often. It's not something that I was dying to continue to read. It wasn't, get you on the edge of your seat type of situation, but it was really good. I loved it. I thought it was a fun read. I thought the twists and turns, while you kind of were able to predict a little bit more that happened with this one as opposed to the other book, it's still, when the ending climax happened, I was like, I don't understand what just happened here. How did I miss clues? Did something go on that I should have picked up on earlier, but I didn't? You follow this girl named Brooke, I believe is her name, and she moves back to her old town because she just got a job as a nurse at a inmate facility, maximum security too, nothing small here. And it turns out that her ex-boyfriend, who they were in a relationship with back in high school, who ended up, as she says, murdering a bunch of her friends and attempted to murder her at a party that they were all at together. And so he's been away in prison since that night. He's never gotten out, but now she has to treat him as a patient. He starts telling her, I never did that, it wasn't me. You know, keep an eye out for this guy named Tim, who was her best friend growing up. You know, he's weird, don't trust him. And she shoves it all aside, I don't believe you. She ends up meeting Tim, who's now the principal of her son's school, and they start getting involved, and weird twists and turns kept happening. I don't want to give too much away because it was a really fun read to continue to follow her along the way. And it gets broken up between past and present, so you get her perspective of everything that's happening right now. We follow her the entire way through her journey back home, but we also get her view of what happened that night that all the murders took place. And it was a nice sprinkle in between, just when things start heating up in the past, you get dragged back to the future, and it was nice. It wasn't too drawn out in any aspect of it. So I definitely want to continue to read more by her. I think her thrillers are really, really good, and I know she's written a bunch, so I can't wait to read the next one by her. I'm super excited, so probably pick another one up for next month. Just a little thriller sprinkled into all my horror and some fantasy, as we'll get to. My next book was Horror Store by Grady Hendrix, and I gave this one a 4-star. This was such a fun ride. I got it because it's IKEA. It's IKEA, and while you can't say that in the book, we are Orsk in here, and they do mention IKEA a lot in this book as being the better version of Orsk. And it starts off just, you follow this one girl, and she works at this realtor store, and she's just dreading it. She knows that her life's not supposed to be fully in here. I don't remember what her name is. What is it? Amy? I think it's Amy. We're gonna say Amy, I'm not too sure. But you follow her story. It's through her point of view, and her daily life. Just, you come into the store, it's just your standard work day. It's realtor hell. You don't like being there. It's a job. It's a job, and she doesn't want to be here forever. And so it starts off so funny because you're just following her, and she's like, something smells bad in the store. The escalators aren't working anymore. Our door is locked. And she's just like, this is so stupid. And her manager asks her to do a sit-in with her, him, his name is Basil, and Ruth Ann, who is like the star employee, to see who's been breaking into the store, seeing, you know, what's happening, because they always come in the next day and something is always broken or destroyed, or it's smothered in some unmentionable substance. So they do all this, they stay the night. He says, you know, I'll pay you overtime. She's like, fine, whatever, let's go. And then it all goes down. It all happens within like a day in this book. And 2 other characters that work there are there because they're shooting a paranormal video to create stardom for them. So they get sucked into this, and it gets creepy. It gets really creepy, and then it gets graphic. And I was confused because we were having such a fun, lighthearted time at the start that we just jumped straight to the gore, and which was also great because that's the kind of stuff that I find interesting. So I loved it. I thought it was funny from the start, really graphic, really still with humor though. Still, you had some bits that just, I was laughing at it. It was very fun. I would 100% recommend this to anybody that has worked in retail before. You will get the references, you'll get the jokes, you'll get the sad humor in it. And the way the book is laid out, I mean, come on. Each chapter starts with like a piece of furniture. Let me find one. And it tells you about the piece of furniture. Like, it's just a really fun book. And I do have a book of his on my horror bingo TBR. So I will be reading more of him coming up. My next book was Maeve Fly, which I've seen everybody reading, so I had to jump on that bandwagon. I gave this one 4 stars. I thought it was brilliant in its feminine, female rage story. It was a coming of age story. She's always battled with this demon. Oh, I didn't tell you who it was by. C.J. Lead. Sorry. So she works at a magical amusement park. That's the word I'm looking for. Magical amusement park, which we cannot name. And she works as a princess of said magical amusement park. And she loves her job. She absolutely loves it. We follow Maeve, who's our main character. This is all her story. And we follow her on the journey of grief and rage and love and lust. And we get to witness all of the complex emotions that come with it and how she handles them. Not well. Not well at all. But in a way that we can relate. It's very raw in the sense that you feel bad for her half the time. You know, she's doing these unspeakable things to people and you get it. You just like, okay, I'm on board. Let's roll. You know, she has her best friend who she's losing to stardom, and her grandmother is dying and is in a coma, and she's distraught and sad, and everything she loves is ripped away from her. And you realize that she never really had a good home life as a kid, and she ran away to be with this grandmother who she's never met, and then bonded with her over everything and found her exact copy. She was like, I know who I am, I know who I'm supposed to be. Her grandmother shows her the way, tells her everything that she needs to know and everything she needs to hear, and then it all gets ripped away. And then she meets this guy who's her best friend's brother, and they start hitting it off, and she realizes he's a little twisted too, but she doesn't believe him because she thinks she's alone. You know, besides her and her grandmother, nobody's as twisted as her. Nobody else has these feelings. And it's just a sensational read for a lot of reasons. The graphicness of it wasn't as graphic. Everybody considers this like an extreme horror book, and I get where they're coming from, but in no way would I put this as an extreme horror book. I'm pretty sure if you like horror even a little, you'll be on board with it. It wasn't too graphic in any particular sense of the way, I would say. It wasn't, you know, there weren't any scenes that I was like, ooh, I'm a little nauseous now. So I definitely think this is more of a universal horror, I would say. So I definitely would recommend. I think it was really well written. I really enjoyed it. I could not put it down. It was a good coming of age story. Female rage. I'm all for it. Let's go. And then I read, this is on my horror bingo card. It was for the prompt, a book written in 2024, and you have to finish it in 2024. So I will be talking about it again. So we'll just quickly graze it quickly. It's The Day of the Door by Laurel Hightower. And I went into this thinking that it was going to be a complete and utter ghost story. And it is, and it's not. I gave this one 3 stars just because it would get to like a crest, like, oh my god, this is gonna happen, and then it just went back down, and then it would do it again, and then so I'd say 3 stars. It was good. I enjoyed it. The ending of it was good, and I think it has a very good message about trauma of childhood and how we process our trauma of childhood. We follow these siblings, the Lasco siblings. There's 4 of them. The older brother dies, and all the other siblings believe it's at the hand of their mother, who they think has been just abusive to them in their childhood, and the father isn't around anymore, and even the mother's boyfriends that she has had, they end up getting frustrated and they leave too. So they just process it differently. They think the mother killed the older brother because he stood up to her, and they've never forgiven her, and they grew up away from her because the second oldest son calls Child Protective Services and gets them all removed from her. And we flash forward to when they're all adults now. So it's just him and his 2 sisters. And when they're all adults now, and they're all living their own separate lives, and the youngest sibling comes up to them and says, I want to forgive mom. We have to do this thing. We have to listen to her story. She says the house was haunted. It had nothing to do with her. That an entity killed our brother. And we're going to go back to the house where it all started. We're going to have a paranormal investigative team come in. And we're just going to go in and talk about what really happened. We're going to get the answers we fully needed. They all reluctantly agree. They go back, and it gets weird. Some supernatural stuff happens. I'm not too sure if it is a ghost story, if it's not a ghost story. It's never fully described, because there's some paranormal stuff sprinkled in, and then there's some, no, the mom's just nuts, she's crazy, you know, she's an awful human, we should hate her. And it does a really good job of making you hate the mother throughout this. But question, is it really happening? Is it not happening? Are they seeing something? Are they just their rage, their trauma? Have they repressed it? Have they worked through it? It was a good read. It was a quick read. It went really, really fast. I'm glad that I really read it. The cover really sucked me, and I mean, this is just stuff of nightmares. I mean, I saw it and I was like, ooh, this will haunt my dreams. And there wasn't that much of this guy in there, which is disappointing in some ways, because I was really looking forward to him, but we didn't really get that. But overall, quite enjoyable. I would read from her again just to see what else she writes about. She did write well, and it was easy flow, it was easy to understand. So I may pick up something else that she has written. We'll see where it goes. And that brings us to the last book that I read this month, and it just so happens that we're going to end without horror as well. We started without it, we're going to end without it. We are going to jump right into fantasy. The last book is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And I know I'm very late to this party, but I thought I'd jump on board everybody who's anybody is talking about this, and I wanted to know. I love me a good fantasy. I love me Lord of the Rings. I love The Hobbit. I love Star Wars. Like, let's roll. Let's see. And it was good. It was really good. I didn't expect it to be as love-driven as it was. I gave this 3.75 stars because I did really like it. I think the beginning of it was really strong. The middle kind of trailed out for me, but the ending of it blew me away. That's what makes me want to continue with the series. We follow a girl named Feyre who is in poverty with her family, who used to be wealthy, and they have experienced very hard times, and now she is the caretaker of this family. She's only 19, and she goes out and she hunts, and she gets money for the family, she feeds the family, she clothes the family. She's pretty much taken care of them all because she promised her mother on her mother's deathbed that she would always take care of her family. And there's a very strong dislike of fairies in this world of hers. So it's the human world, which is the moral world, and the fairy supernatural world over here. And they used to combine. They don't anymore. There's a wall now that the fairies can't cross, but rumor has it that they've been crossing, and perhaps they might be ready to attack. And you start off by not liking the fairies at all. They sound brutal, they sound mean, and I did not picture fairies described it this way, which is why I actually really enjoyed this book, because when I think fairies, I think, you know, tiny wings, very beautiful, very pretty, but very ethereal. Not, you know, shape-shifting wolf-like creatures with horns and fangs and able to tear you limb from limb. So, all right, I'm in. And she ends up accidentally killing a fairy, which breaks this treaty that they have, and the High Lord of the fairy world, of the Spring Court, comes in and steals her away and says, hey, I will save your life if you come for the rest of your life and live in the fairy world with me, and you have to just do everything I say, basically. Not slave-like, because he doesn't believe in that anymore. But she ends up going to save herself and her family. And we follow her journey of really getting to know the fairies. Tamlin and his friend Lucian, or Lucian, and we just learn a lot about them, and we start to like them along the way, and we learn a little bit about the struggles in the fairy world, that it's not all glitz and glamour like they've been told, that they also have their own problems, that they're also experiencing hardship, that there is a war between their own world. And she's just this human who doesn't get told much, but she's trying to help and figure it out, and we get her own self-discovery about not having to take care of her family anymore and learning her own way. And she falls in love with one of the fairies, and it's a really cute, adorable story to follow them and read all about their love and their flirtations. It's very cute, very just adorable. I loved it. And then he sends her home, just, you know, go bye. And she comes back because she can't be away from him, finds out he's been kidnapped, he's been taken, and she goes after him. And the last half of the book is just her doing these horrible things to save his own life. And it was so gut-wrenching to read everything she was going through, and it's so descriptive, and it's just, it turned my stomach, and I felt so bad for her all the way through the end of the book. And I just wanted her to be fine, and I wanted him to be fine. And I'm not too sure where the second book, because there's 5 books, I want to say, in this series, and so I'm not too sure where we're headed, but I will read the second one, and I'm hoping that I like it as much as I like this one, and I'm hoping I want to read the third one, and then the fourth one, and then the last one. I'm hoping. But I did like the way she writes, and I do like fantasy, so I will read the second one of this, and I might pick up some of her other books. Also, she has a coloring book of this, and I mean, I just might get that too, because I love a good coloring book situation, and I like fantasy coloring, so I might get that. Who knows? But that will do it for September. I really enjoyed all the books that I read. There weren't that many disappointing ones. There weren't any that I was like, wow, I wish I hadn't read that, or ooh, that was a real big struggle to get through, which was good, which is something that doesn't always happen. So I'm very excited that September was a good month. And with October here and embracing us, I cannot wait to go full on in to spooky, gory, horrible, just gut-wrenching, disturbing nature. I'm so excited. So that will do it for today. I wish everybody the best of the horror season, and I wish everybody the best for their spooky selves. So enjoy, keep reading, and let me know if you have anything creepy and disturbing that I should read. I will see you guys in the next one.